Minutes is approved unanimously. We are now back at agenda item number 11B, AO 2017-36, unmanned aerial vehicles. That public hearing was closed on February 27th. Action was postponed from February 28th and March 21st. Ms. Dimbachi.
There's a motion on the floor, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. Would you like to repeat the motion that's on the floor?
Postpone indefinitely.
And there was a second, I think, by Ms. Dimbachi. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Evans. Okay. And Mr. Flynn. You know what? Let me go back to Mr. Starr so he can speak to the motion, and then I'll get Mr. Flynn. Thank you.
Now, I don't mind, Madam Chair, if you have a different ruling. I can wait for Mr. Flynn then, but I think that what I find is a tendency to regulate before we see actually what the problem is. And my tendency is that we are claiming that this technology is going to be a nuisance by setting that tone by what Mr. Flynn has categorized it as. He softened it a little bit by saying if you're a licensed operator, but that's a stretch. It's like saying you're a professional bike rider or you can ride in the bike lane if you're not. In this particular case, I think that we don't even know what the drone technology is going to do inside our community. I feel like I want to let it evolve. I've learned about it from different aspects. The realtor market, realty groups are very interested in drone marketing, retail, properties for resale. I don't know that every one of those folks needs to enjoin a license for operation of a drone. I read an article provided to me by a local lawyer that used the drone to recreate a crime scene, brought in distance calculations and all the other things, and that required him to fly over other people's property. In Mr. Flynn's case, he's saying that you can't fly the drone over private property unless those property owners give permission. That's challenging. I think what Mr. Flynn fails to address, and maybe the real point, is when these drones take pictures, what is the privileged use of those pictures? And that seems to be much more, as I read, that you were able to check that person out on the other side of the fence that was sunbathing. Certainly they make a little noise over the top of that, but there's that intrusion factor. These things are very powerful from a platform that the cameras give. Lastly, I think we all got it some time ago, which was both the director of the FAA and the regional directors of the FAA saying, please don't do exactly what we're doing, which is to regulate until the technology flushes itself out. And so I'm very hesitant to regulate airspace, either at the 50-foot mark or any of that. So the idea that it's sort of, lack of another articulate word, sort of half-baked or premature is where I would tend to go with my motion to just sort of put this on ice and let somebody bring it forward as problems arise that legislation is required. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. Mr. Flynn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess we're debating the ordinance.
Actually, there's a motion on the floor to postpone indefinitely,
And
and that's what
was
we're...
the topic of the previous speaker. So if
I ended it with that. Sorry.
So if I may, with your indulgence, speak to the underlying issue.
Certainly, Mr. Flynn.
At our most recent work session, one of my colleagues said, well, gee whiz, if we're exempting license operators, shouldn't we be more strict in how we're regulating all operators? I didn't come to this discussion to provide the Drone Regulation Act of 2001. I recognize the primacy of the FAA in governing airspace. Hence, this is an attempt at a very, very, very modest step in protecting people's private property and rights. And it's not meant to be anti-drone, it's meant to be pro-private property. I'm supportive of drone technology. I will concur with Mr. Starr that one of the larger issues is how photography is utilized using this technology. And honestly, that would probably be better addressed under trespass rules. However, because of changes in state law, it's very difficult for us to address it at a local level, hence this approach. Is it ideal? No. I would hesitate to assert that any piece of legislation I have forwarded to this body is ideal. I do my best. As I said, it was a very, very modest step. The only substantive disagreement that was brought to this body is the fact that it is under the public nuisance portion of the code as opposed to trespass. That's it. Nobody has said this is reasonable. The drone operators organization, I forget the number that Mr. Collins represents, has said this is reasonable. We've heard an industry representative saying we adopt the amendment that's proposed, but we can't take out this motion. We'd be fine with it. The only substantive disagreement is the section of the code which is possible. That can be corrected in some of the unfortunate title can't. But I would appreciate at least the body taking the opportunity to vote on the amendments to that code and then decide the wish to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Mr. Bosky?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a fundamental belief when members of this body have a piece of legislation, before we vote to kill it, we should at least vote to let them introduce it and plead their case. So I think we're kind of backwards in this, but with that said, since we're obviously debating it, I'm not going to be supporting the motion to postpone indefinitely because I think Mr. Flynn deserves some professional courtesy to plead his case and make an amendment. Beyond that, well, this is a new technology, there's no question. And federal law mandates if your drone is a certain weight, you have to get a license or you have to register it or something. And there have been instances in Chugach River where a drone, followed some kids home as they were walking. And I've heard comments from my district specifically about a neighbor's drone that was apparently too close for comfort. And if we don't give APD tools in their toolbox to mitigate these issues, you're going to have somebody shoot down a drone. And then you have a whole host of other problems because it's a federally registered aircraft to some degree. So, to me, I don't think it's ideal necessarily. I'm not sure how I'll vote on it ultimately, but I want to have the debate, and I think it's something that is emerging. I think Mr. Flynn articulated well, really, what the substantive issue in this is where do we classify it? And I think to go a little further, what tools do we give APD when somebody calls and says, there's a drone hovering, outside my bedroom window, because I don't think any of us would like that very much. Whether it's a peeping Tom law, whether it's a nuisance law, that's where the debate, I think, needs to go. And I think you will. Over the years, you're going to see more and more conflicts and more people have them. But I think just to out of hand, just kill it and not have the debate, I think it is a disservice. Because I can see already in my district, I can already see people saying, you know what, I'm not putting up with this. And I think they should have a better option. And maybe that's get a ticket. Maybe APD can confiscate it. They can do something. But if we just start to remain silent, we're allowing the public to kind of go it alone. So that's wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Bosky. Mr. Cross?
Yeah, I agree with much of the prior comments. I don't support the ordinance as written. I don't support it after we adopt the rule review. But I think we should have a rule and allow that to be a form if Mr. Flynn wants to be in his appearance. So we'll support the motion to postpone it.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. I have some comments, but I need to wait for Mr. Trainee to take the chair seat.
This break is brought to you by Abigail Jackson. Want to speak, but I'm not going to let her. We have to line up here. I know, me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's on Mr. Starr's motion to postpone indefinitely. And frankly, I agree with Mr. Starr and to postpone indefinitely for a different reason. But then when I hear Mr. Bosky, I do think it's really fair to let Mr. Flynn move forward with his proposed amendment. But I can tell you right now that I'm not going to be supporting even then. And the reason why is because, for one thing, Mr. Flynn stated that he got the idea from when he was at National League of Cities, and it's a wonderful organization, we learned a lot. But what National League of Cities did, and I passed out a copy to everybody, was they gave communities a model ordinance for the promotion of drone innovation and accountability. And it's a really, really great model. It talks about the purpose, definitions, development of rules, notice of intended operation, reckless operation, penalties, and exceptions. And it's a good document that, maybe future assembly members can look at and bring something forward, because I think that it is a better document than what is before us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Trainee?
Thank you, Madam. Dean, since you're not working for us, this document that came to us from NLC, I want to give this to you so you can craft it in the language we can use in the event that Mr. Flynn's ordinance does not go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Trainee. We now have before us a motion to postpone indefinitely. There is no one else in the queue. Please vote. That item is not postponed indefinitely, 10-1. We now have before us the main motion. Mr. Flynn?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
And then, Madam Chair, if I may, I'd like to move amendment number 1.
Certainly, Mr. Flynn. Mr.
Second.
Flynn.
Speaking specifically to the amendment, I will say this has been an interesting journey in the conversations I've had. And if you were to go to a local store and obtain a drone, the proprietors would advise you should register your UAV, and you would be therefore in compliance. And you would also get educated. There's a Know Before You Fly website, lots of good information out there for utilizers of this technology. However, this being a modern world, you can also go to Amazon or some other website and pick up your favorite UAV and get no counsel, no advice, no registration instruction. And so those who take the time to comply with FAA regulations, I feel they're deserving of dispensation. And I particularly didn't want to hamper commercial utilizers of this technology as they follow a code of ethics that I think if such they would not abuse it. And hence my bringing forward this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. There's no one else in the queue. We're voting on Mr. Flynn's amendment number 1. Please vote. Mr. Steele, that amendment is approved unanimously. We now have before us the main motion.
Madam Chair, if I may speak.
Certainly, Mr. Flynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I presume this is going to fail tonight. But it's okay. I do, however, want to highlight a couple of things that have come to light as we've had this conversation over the past couple of months. One is most of the operators are small. There's only a few that have come to light that are not so. Second is we as a community have not done a good job of defining areas where utilization of this technology on a recreational, obvious basis is available. And we have a very complicated airspace. Merrill Field, J. Bear, International Airport, Campbell Impact, the BLM facility, very complicated airspace. So defining where this technology can be operated is something that we really need to look into. One of the positives was I got to introduce some folks to John Rada to talk about what parks. Yeah, that is fine. The other thing I think is, and I articulated this in my notes to you from the NLC conference, is that we as a government don't have a policy for how we utilize this technology. And I'm not entirely sure, even now, why we invited agencies of the municipality to come talk about this ordinance, but we learned that they're employed. And they're using photographic technology and videography to monitor the facilities. And they have no written policy on how they use that data. None. So if somebody comes along and says, hey, MLMD, or hey, solid waste services, or hey, Port Bankers, we really like access to the data that you collected using your own technology, they have no reason to say that. Frankly, that makes me as a citizen uncomfortable. I think we make all of it. So, at the very least, should you decide not to advance this legislation, I think the next step is to start creating some direction for our municipal agencies so that it can be discussed at a public hearing and we can decide what is appropriate use of that data that they can. That's all, Madam Chair. I appreciate the indulgence of the body. I can push it.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Mr. Dunbar on the proposed amendment?
We're on the main motion now, Madam Chair.
Whoops, sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Dunbar and Mr. Flynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very briefly, I appreciate the work that Mr. Flynn has done and the amendment as well. I don't support the ordinance, and I still have concerns about potentially hampering a burgeoning industry. I know that's not your intent, but I am hesitant, I'll just put it that way, to engage in these kind of regulations at this time. I think this is a pretty exciting area that Anchorage perhaps could be a leader in, and has been a leader in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunbar. Mr. Starr?
Well, it isn't to put a nail in it, Mr. Flynn, really. I think the idea is it is an emerging technology, and our city is looking for avenues to separate itself out from others. And our open space, our lack of roads, our ability to employ technologies in mineral explorations and all that other stuff shouldn't be restricted around what you did in the previous amendment. What you did in the previous amendment was you said that unless you have an FAA authorized certificate, you voted it incorrectly, by the way, it's the federal air regulations under section 107, and that you're complying folks to comply with. So if you go to the FARs under the 107 category, it's a 60-question test. You have to go to a public testing facility. There's one at Merrill. I think it costs you $100. The age limit is 16 or above, which is fine, except it would mean that a youth person that got a drone and felt, I can make some money with this thing, isn't going to be in it because you just restricted the use. So it isn't a contest of wills. We've managed debate civilly for years and years up here from that perspective. It's just that I want good laws to come out of the books. I don't want to send the wrong message that there's some reason that we have to hurry. Ms. Gray Jackson has tendered that other communities that have best practice ordinances already coming out that make a lot of sense. And I would just rather approach it to a good law and an appropriate one, well communicated to our citizen body, based on real, if there are complaints, we deal with the complaints. If there are restrictions, such as Class G airspace only, what's going to send you to Potter's Marsh or beyond? Class G airspace doesn't exist in Anchorage at the level that you're asking for. It's the limitations on the FARs now. I don't see any reason that you would want to limit it to Class G open ground airspace north of Cleveland only. So we just want a good law in the books is my preference, and that's why I kind of pushed back both at the last meeting and this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. Mr. Evans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think given Mr. Flynn's rather obvious and significant limitations. His work on this has been nothing short of heroic. And I do appreciate him. He certainly has an earnest desire to address this issue, which is something that is going to be more problematic as drone technology and drone use increases. I think the technology will ultimately catch up with the technology, and you'll probably be seeing transponders and other things reported on drones at some point in the not too distant future. But I do encourage if this should fail, encourage the Assembly going forward, be mindful of this issue and look at opportunities for improved ordinances going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. There is no one else in the queue. We are voting on the main motion as amended. Please vote. That ordinance fails 10 to 1. Thank you, Mr. Flynn.